Chapter 51. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Combat Power Sharpener. It takes time to condense and cannot be used instantly. This also creates many loopholes. It gives the enemy some opportunities to take advantage of, but there is no way around it. Fortunately, Qianye's chakra has been condensed now. Almost at the same time, the first generations would release ninjutsu and the second generation's flying thunder god sorcerer also arrived in front of him. And they were about to completely end the battle. At this moment, fists formed by powerful chakra gathered from Qianye's palms, with the power and oppression of destroying everything, were thrown out. No one could imagine what kind of terrifying ninjutsu this was. All we could see was that after Qianye's ninjutsu was used, in just a few seconds, the first generation of Hokages would release ninjutsu was completely destroyed. The second generation of Hokage was even unable to dodge and half of his body was smashed. But because he was reborn from the impure world reincarnation, he was immortal and soon recovered. However, even so, it was enough to make people shudder. In an instant, he repelled the attacks of the first and second generation Hokage at the same time. He even severely injured one, that was Hashirama Senju, known as the God of Ninja, and the second generation Hokage, whose strength was unfathomable. Both of them were beaten back together. Although everyone knew that the first and second generations were not in their peak state at this time, such a situation was shocking enough. The momentum of all the root organization ninjas dropped a lot. If they were ashamed and angry and fearful when they rushed forward just now, they were defeated. Now there was only despair in their hearts, and even great doubts. Can such a person really be defeated? Even Danzo and Orochimaru's faces were gloomy. As Kage-level strongmen, more often than not, they would first consider what would happen to them when facing this situation and whether they could do better. The answer is obvious. Not only will it not be better, it may even be worse, because this time the person who was hit was a dead person who was reborn from the impure world reincarnation. If a living person was hit by such a punch, wouldn't he die directly? Even the second generation Hokage with the flying thunder god technique couldn't dodge it, let alone them. Could they be faster than the second generation Hokage? The masked man still looked the same as before, indifferent, as if everything was under his control. I just don't know if the face under the mask can still be so calm after seeing this scene. The battle on the battlefield is still going on, facing the wood release of the first Hokage and the flying thunder god of the second Hokage. Qianye can only use 80 God's air attack to resist, and it can achieve excellent results. The body of the second Hokage was smashed several times. Even the first Hokage suffered a lot. If it weren't for the fact that the body from the impure world reincarnation can be resurrected infinitely, this battle would have ended long ago. But now, the first and second generations can heal and resurrect again and again. Qianye's chakra is constantly being consumed. There is no doubt about the power of the 80 God's air attack, but at the same time, it also has extremely high requirements for chakra. That is, Qianye can release it so many times because of the double bonus of the Otsutsuki physique and the Mangekyo Sharingan. But now, after several fierce battles, it is not enough. This simulation failed. A line of transparent text appeared in the air, announcing the result of this simulation. Even with the golden ability of 80 God's airstrike, after the strength increased greatly, he still failed to successfully survive the night of genocide. But the process in between is fundamentally different from the previous one. In the third simulation, Qianye was directly at a disadvantage in the matchup, but this time it was not the case. After using the 80 God's airstrike, he could easily gain an advantage in the fight with the first and second generations. In the end, he lost because the first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation could be resurrected infinitely, and the amount of chakra would not decrease. It was equivalent to infinite blood and infinite blue, but Qianye was different. His consumption was real. This is why he was defeated in the end. However, compared with the previous one, it was already a great improvement. Qianye's goal has changed from how to defeat the first and second generations to how to completely solve the problem of people who can be resurrected from the dead. According to the information Qianye has, the impure world reincarnation ninjutsu has a very terrible ability. It can recall the souls of dead ninjas and revive them in the form of entities. The resurrected ninja will completely obey the orders of the caster, and will be immortal and have unlimited chakra. In the Fourth Ninja World War, Kabuto Yakushi used this ninjutsu to resurrect many powerful ninjas who had died, and caused great trouble to the coalition forces. However, this ninjutsu is not perfect and has no flaws. Impure, world reincarnation also has its own flaws. The first is the sealing technique. The resurrected ninja is immortal and has no endless chakra, but it is powerless when facing the sealing technique. Once sealed, it is impossible to even break free. The second is the recovery speed. It is true that the reincarnated ninja is immortal, but after being attacked strongly enough, it is impossible to recover in a very short time. This also creates an opportunity for the seal. The third is the risk of breaking free and getting rid of control. If the resurrected ninja knows the seal of the resurrection, he can unlock the seal by himself, such as Uchiha Madara in the Fourth Ninja World War. There are also those truly powerful ninjas who can even ignore the control of the caster. For example, Hashirama Senju was resurrected from the impure world reincarnation during the Fourth Ninja World War and possessed most of the power of his previous life. Qianye squinted his eyes, and this information flashed through his mind at a very fast speed, thinking of countermeasures. On the other hand, the system had already begun to prepare for the next simulation. After all, time is limited and cannot be wasted. During the simulation, every minute and every second is precious and cannot be missed. Soon, Qianye figured it all out. Among the three defects of the impure world reincarnation, only the sealing technique is usable. As for the other two, they are a bit unrealistic. With Qianye's current strength, he can easily deal with most of the Kage-level strongmen in this world, but if you want to play the power to delay the recovery speed of the impure world reincarnation, you need at least the combat power of the Super Kage level. This is what Qianye does not have now, and it is obviously unlikely to break free from the control of the impure world reincarnation. Because the impure world reincarnation is not perfect, the reincarnated first and second generation Hokage only have the strength of the Kage level. It is obviously impossible to forcibly get rid of the control with the Kage level strength. Otherwise, with the attitude of the first generation towards the Uchiha clan, he would not let Orochimaru manipulate him. After all, there is only the sealing technique, which is the most feasible way. 3-day summer promotion. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 52. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Lord of Elements. Increased by 300%. System, start simulation. Uchiha Qianye, who had figured out everything, said in a deep voice. He selected his talent again and entered the simulation. This time, he sought to use the sealing method to break the situation. However, although Qianye had mastered some sealing methods, it was still somewhat difficult to seal the top combat power of the first and second generations. In addition, he was surrounded by enemies. The root organization, Danzo, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi were watching and obstructing all the time, and everything was not going smoothly. But compared to the previous simulations, it was obviously a lot of progress. The failure to seal successfully and the failure of simulations again and again did not affect Qianye's mood. He enjoyed the feeling of improving himself in battle, and he enjoyed the confrontation with the real strong. By now, with his strength, he could easily avoid the Uchiha clan extermination night and survive, but that was no longer his goal. How to improve his strength as much as possible in battle to deal with the possible future. All the situations that will appear are what he really wants. As time passed, Qianye had simulated 6 or 7 times. In the subsequent simulations, he calmed his mind. He no longer tried to use the sealing method, but adopted a more direct way to hone himself. One reason was that the level of the sealing method he mastered was too low, and it was not enough to seal the first and second generations. In addition, the surrounding of enemies also made his seal somewhat impractical. Time and time again, because of exhausting chakra, he was defeated in the end. Qianye knew that it would be difficult to do better with his current strength. If he wanted to change the situation, there was only one word: wait. Wait for the new golden ability. According to the golden ability he had obtained before, Otsutsuki Physique would escape, 80 God's Air attack. All of these can greatly enhance his strength, thus solving one difficulty after another. And now, in the face of this new dilemma, he believes that as long as the golden ability appears, he will be able to reverse everything. However, the golden ability is not so easy to get. After several simulations, Qianye encountered many purple abilities, and even more white and blue abilities. However, he still couldn't find the golden ability. This was consistent with his experience. No matter what good things were, they were not so easy to get. Qianye had already had psychological expectations in his heart, and he was not too upset. Finally, after more than 10 simulations, Qianye got his fourth golden ability, Lord of Elements, golden ability when performing escape techniques. The power of ninjutsu is increased by 300%, 300%. Oh my goodness, this is too exaggerated. Even Qianye was a little surprised when he saw the introduction of this golden ability. The power of ninjutsu is increased by 300%, what does this mean? His ordinary, lowest level C-level ninjutsu will have unimaginable power under the blessing of the golden ability Lord of Elements. It requires the ultimate move of the same level strong to fight. Originally thought that the fourth golden ability would be a bloodline limit like the previous ones, or bloodline elimination, bloodline net, etc. Unexpectedly, it was the Lord of Elements, simple, rough, and most importantly, strong enough. Getting this ability directly means being invincible at the same level, and even when fighting across levels, you have the power to fight. Qianye first locked this golden ability, and then randomly selected a few abilities from it and entered the simulation. He couldn't wait to try the power of the Lord of Elements. Enter the simulation. Just like before, Qianye was locked up in the prison of Konoha guard. Later, Danzo brought people to silence him, but they were scared away. Then came Orochimaru's impure world reincarnation technique, and the appearance of the first and second Hokage. Under the dark night sky, the first and second Hokage walked side by side. With a strong sense of oppression, Qianye appeared in front of the first and second Hokage with a flash technique, only 2 or 3 meters away. Before he was able to deal with Danzo, the ninjas of the Root organization, and even Uchiha Itachi easily, without using his newly acquired golden ability, the Lord of Elements. Until now, when facing the first and second Hokage with the impure world reincarnation body, he really planned to do his best 80 God's air attack. At the beginning, Qianye used the most powerful move he had mastered at this stage, assisted by the newly acquired golden ability, the Lord of Elements. Instantly, an extraordinary power burst out, as the chakra condensed, white light shone on the palm of Qianye's hand. Before he made a move, he had already revealed a heart-pounding pressure. Under this pressure, the people watching the battle nearby, even the first and second generation Hokage with the body of the impure world reincarnation, all sensed a strong breath of danger. This breath even made them feel that once they were hit, they would pay an irreversible price. Even if they had the body of the impure world reincarnation that could recover infinitely, it was no exception, without too much reminder. The first and second generation Hokage, who were extremely experienced in combat, had already moved. They knew that the more they faced this powerful ninjutsu, the more they could not. Instead of just sitting there and waiting to die, you should choose to take the initiative to attack and interrupt the casting of ninjutsu, which may have unexpected results. However, Qianye at this moment is no longer the Qianye who used 80 God's aerial attack for the first time. In the previous dozen simulations, Qianye became more and more proficient in the use of 80 God's aerial attack, to the point where he could cast it without too much preparation. Otherwise, he would not have been able to come in front of the first and second generations with a single instant body technique. The first and second generations attacked at the same time, would release, one of the most terrifying bloodline limits in the world, Flying Thunder God, an S-level space-type ninjutsu. Either one is difficult enough. What's more, now that it is performed by truly powerful men like the first and second generations, it has reached a point that is unimaginable for ordinary people. At the same time, Qianye's 80 God's aerial attack, blessed by the Lord of Elements, 10 God's airstrike can also be used. One after another, huge chakra fists, like a small mountain, are thrown indiscriminately in all directions. The range is so large that it is even nearly 100 meters. It completely covers Danzo, Orochimaru, the masked man, Itachi, and the ninjas of the Root organization who are watching the battle. The huge chakra fist carries an indescribable terrifying pressure and a thunderous speed. There is still a clear distance when it is first seen, but in the blink of an eye it is already in front of everyone. White light, dazzling white light fists are densely thrown in all directions, destroy everything he touches. Orochimaru, Danzo, Itachi, and the ninjas of the Root organization are all horrified and surprised. Even the masked man who always shows dignity and calmness and claims to be Uchiha Madara seems to have a slight fluctuation. They could never have imagined that Qianye could release this ninjutsu that surpassed the Kage-level strongmen. As the fist with chakra condensed approached, the people in horror hurriedly used the instant body technique to dodge. However, except for the masked man with divine power, the remaining few people, Danzo, Orochimaru, Uchiha Itachi who had been injured before, and a group of ninjas from the Root Organization still failed to dodge, especially the ninjas of the Root Organization. Each of them is not bad, but it depends on who they are compared with, under the blessing of the Lord of the Golden Ability element. Qianye's current strength has surpassed the Kage level and is extremely close to the level of Super Kage. None of his ninjutsu can be contended by these ninjas of the Root Organization. What's more, Qianye is now performing the 80 Gods airstrike, which is known as the strongest physical technique. Even Kage-level strongmen like Danzo and Orochimaru could not dodge and suffered some minor injuries, let alone these elite jonins, who are even more difficult to dodge and suffer heavy damage. The masked man, Danzo and others were shocked by the terrifying Qianye ninjutsu, but they were staring at the center of the battlefield. They were affected so much on the periphery, not to mention the first and second generation Hokage who were in the center of the battlefield. Although they all knew how amazing the power of the impure world reincarnation was, it was an imperfect impure world reincarnation technique after all. Could it really withstand such a powerful attack? They were unsure. On the battlefield, the indiscriminate attack just now destroyed everything and also stirred up thick gray smoke, covering everything like a thick fog. The masked man and Uchiha Itachi immediately activated the Mangekyo Sharingan to gain insight and perception. Itachi, how is it? Danzo asked with a serious face and frowned. If even the first and second generation Hokage who were reborn by the impure world reincarnation were not Qianye's opponents, he really had no way out. Orochimaru also half closed his eyes, his expression uncertain. Originally, he had absolute confidence in his impure world reincarnation technique, but now, after truly seeing Qianye's strength, he wavered. At this time, he realized how naive and ridiculous his previous idea of occupying Qianye's body was. The two Hokages are still alive. Uchiha Itachi said in a deep voice. Hearing this news, Orochimaru and Danzo both showed a hint of joy on their faces. If they are still alive, it means that the attack just now did not cause fundamental damage to the first and second generations. There is still a chance, at least. It is not so despairing. Whoosh, the night wind blew up, blowing away the gray smoke and revealing the situation inside clearly. Uchiha Qianye stood there calmly with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Obviously, he was very satisfied with the ability shown by the Lord of the Golden Ability Element. In the distance, the first and second generations of Hokage stood. Even after such a terrible attack, they still held on, but the specific situation is not good. 3-day summer discount event, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Event time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 53. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Either go to war or give in. The left arm of the second Hokage was broken, and his right leg disappeared. Even the first Hokage lost a leg. He was in a state of disarray. However, this was not the most frightening thing. What was really shocking was that the abilities brought by the impure world reincarnation, immortality, and unlimited chakra seemed to have been broken. The injuries of the first and second Hokage showed no signs of recovery. Or rather, their injuries were recovering, but the speed of recovery was very slow, so slow that it could be ignored. Danzo, Orochimaru, and Itachi widened their eyes, their lips trembled slightly, and they could not say a word. Qianye refreshed their cognition again and again. To what extent has this kid from the Uchiha family reached? The masked man was calm on the surface, but the single eye that was exposed became a little brighter. Obviously, even he who called himself Uchiha Madara could not remain calm when he saw this scene. Let's go together. Danzo's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness, and he looked at Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru. Things had come to this point, and there was no way to end it without killing Qianye. God knew what would happen if he let Uchiha Qianye go today. However, even the first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation were injured like that, and he would definitely not be their opponent alone. So he looked at Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru. He needed help. If the first and second generations were not enough, then he would add himself, and if that was not enough, he would add Orochimaru and Itachi. He didn't believe that 5 Kage-level people would be enough. It's not enough. Hearing Danzo's words, Itachi immediately stood behind Danzo to show his support. He has always been loyal to Konoha. What's more, he has an agreement with Konoha, which he must fulfill. These 2 points, no matter which one, do not allow him to have any other choice, and this is not surprising to Danzo at all. He looked at Orochimaru again. If Orochimaru agreed, his hope would increase a little, and if he disagrees, he and Itachi can also give it a try. Orochimaru hesitated slightly, sneered, "I want that kid's body, okay." Danzo didn't hesitate at all, it was just a blank check, so he didn't have to write it randomly. As for what to do after he really got it, he would talk about it later. Anyway, reputation was never something Danzo valued. Okay. Orochimaru half closed his eyes, licked his dry lips with his big, long tongue, and finally agreed to take action. "Are you willing to take action?" Danzo looked at the masked man again. Unfortunately, the masked man just remained motionless after hearing what he said, as if he didn't hear it. Danzo didn't ask any more questions, because he already knew the masked man's answer. It was not much different from what he had expected before. This mysterious person who claimed to be Uchiha Madara would not take action easily. Danzo, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi, 3 Kage-level strongmen, performed the instant body technique at the same time, joined the battle, stood beside the severely injured first and second generation Hokage, and confronted Uchiha Qianye. Qianye's expression was calm, but the excitement in his eyes was even greater. He didn't take a Kage-level strongmen seriously. 2 of them could hardly pose a threat to him, but now there are 5 of them. 5 Kage-level strongmen attacked at the same time. Can he still solve it as easily as before? It's getting more and more interesting. Simulation failed. The result of this simulation appeared in the air again. Uchiha Qianye, who possessed the Lord of Elements, was ultimately unable to defeat the combined efforts of 5 Kage-level masters, although his 80 Gods airstrike, which was blessed by the Lord of Elements, had terrible power. No one dared to face it head-on, and could only dodge or join forces to resist. However, performing such a move was originally a huge consumption. Even with Qianye's current chakra, it was impossible to perform it indefinitely. The 5 Kage-level masters cooperated with each other, used tactics, and focused on consumption rather than fighting hard. In the end, Qianye ran out of chakra and lost. Although it was still a failure this time, the process was very different. The original biggest obstacle, the problem that the first and second generation Hokage reborn by the impure world reincarnation could be reborn infinitely, had been solved. Under the blessing of the Lord of Elements, his power was so strong that even the impure world reincarnation body could not recover, even if he finally faced the combined efforts of 5 Kage-level masters. The process was extremely thrilling, and he might not have no chance of winning, so he soon started a new round of simulations again. Unfortunately, in the next few simulations, Qianye used a lot of strategies and even severely injured 2 of the 5 shadow-level masters, but in the end, there was still a thin line between victory. With the end of the simulation time, the 4th simulation finally came to an end. In this simulation, he gained no less than any previous one. To read the violent novel, go to Faloo Novel Network. The Master of the Golden Ability Element has improved him in all aspects. With the approach of the Night of Genocide, he is very satisfied to have such an ability. After the simulation, according to the original plan, he should report to the Konoha Guard Department, and then accept new tasks, or some daily things, but because of the last time he killed the messenger of Union Village, Qianye has been under house arrest and was told that it is best not to leave his room. It just so happens that Qianye also needs enough time to simulate and practice to strengthen his strength step by step. So, there was no resistance. After the 4th simulation, Qianye was still immersed in practice, just like in the past when he recalled his experience and shortcomings in this simulation. After several simulations, he had gotten used to improving himself in this way. However, what he didn't know was that during his simulated training, people from the Cloud Shadow Village came and issued an ultimatum. Either go to war with the Cloud Shadow Village, or hand over Uchiha Qianye who killed the Cloud Shadow Village envoy. As for why the Cloud Shadow Village envoy died, and whether the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan of Konoha was kidnapped, the Cloud Shadow Village didn't care at all, and didn't acknowledge it at all. It was completely unreasonable, and it was obvious that they were here to cause trouble. Against this background, the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen was forced to summon the clan leaders of the various clans of Konoha, important members of the village, as well as Yuhi Kurenai, Yuzuki Yugao, Asuma, Hei-8 and Might Guy, who were closely related to this matter, to discuss together how to deal with this matter. Lord Hokage, if the Kumikage village wants to fight, then let them fight. Do we in Konoha fear them? Let's take this opportunity to show them some strength and let them know who is the real #1 ninja village. A patriarch who advocated war spoke first, his eyes widened and his face flushed red. He was obviously very angry about the extremely arrogant behavior of Uchiha village. It was obviously Uchiha village that stole the chicken but lost the rice, and now they dared to bite back. It was really unreasonable. Konoha was the well-deserved #1 ninja village. When had it ever been bullied like this? His speech quickly attracted the echo of many people present. That's it, a mere cloud shadow village, kill him. Let him know how powerful our Konoha is. Lord Hokage, give the order. We will never surrender. The more they talked, the angrier they became. They wished they could have a big fight with the Cloud Shadow Village. The younger generation, Yuzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, and Might Guy, saw this scene and couldn't help but feel relieved. They were really afraid that they would hand Qianye over, as the people of Konoha had said. That would be too worthless. They all knew very clearly who was to blame for this matter, but judging from the current situation, things should not develop in the worst direction they thought. However, at this moment, a somewhat discordant laugh interrupted everything. Hee, it's easy to say, but what about the reality? What right do we have to fight? Everyone looked over and found it was Danzo, the clan leader who had advocated the battle before, snorted coldly and said contemptuously, Danzo, are you afraid? The Cloud Shadow Village dares to speak so arrogantly and underestimate our Konoha because of cowards like you, which makes outsiders think that our Konoha is cowardly and can be bullied. Danzo's expression was calm, and he did not change at all because of the ridicule of the clan leader. He said lightly, afraid? If I have a 50% chance of winning, I will choose to fight without any hesitation. But the key now is, do we have a 50% chance of success? Ever since the Ninetales attacked Konoha and the 4th Hokage died, Konoha has reached an unprecedented moment of weakness. Orochimaru, one of the 3 ninjas, defected, and Tsunade and Orochimaru are nowhere to be found, so now it's up to me and the 3 old men to hold the fort. Let me ask you, can the current Konoha be a match for the Qianye village? Once the war starts, what kind of blow will it bring to the villagers and ninjas of our Konoha village? And if we lose the war, speaking of which, he paused for a moment, looked directly at everyone present, and said word by word, you are all the clan leaders of Konoha and the top leaders of Konoha. You should know how many people are watching us in secret, waiting for us to make mistakes. If we make any mistakes, I don't need to say what will happen to us. At this point, even the clan leaders who had been advocating for war were speechless, because they knew that what Danzo said made sense. With the current Konoha, it is highly unlikely that they will be a match for the Cloud Shadow Village. If they lose the war, they will face unbearable losses, but, if we hand the person over like this, how will other ninja villages look at us? Wouldn't our reputation as the #1 ninja village in Konoha become a joke? After a while, someone spoke up. The relationship between Konoha and the Uchiha clan was tense, and they certainly didn't care about the life or death of an Uchiha clan member. What they really cared about was the face and interests of the entire Konoha. Danzo said, this is the uncle we have to bear. Either go to war or bear these. We must make a choice. Koko. That's enough. The clan leader wanted to argue something more, but was interrupted by the Sandai. The Sandai let out a long breath and said, Hayashi, this matter was caused by your Hyuga clan. Tell me what you think. Chapter 54. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Classic for the Will of Fire. At this time, people focused their attention on the head of the Hyuga clan, and the father of Hinata Hyuga who was almost abducted, Hyuga Hayashi. The Hyuga clan has the famous Byakugan bloodline in the ninja world, and also has a very high voice in Konoha village. Now this matter is caused by the Hyuga family. In a certain sense, Hyuga Hayashi's words will greatly affect the outcome of this discussion. Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao also looked over, with a bit of hope in their eyes. Hinata is the daughter of Hyuga Hayashi and the designated successor of the Hyuga clan. She is of great significance to the entire Hyuga clan. She was almost abducted by the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village. Fortunately, Uchiha Qianye appeared in time and saved Hinata, otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. In terms of emotion and reason, the Hyuga clan will side with Uchiha Qianye. This is the most direct thought in the hearts of Uzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, and Might Guy. However, as Hyuga Hayashi spoke, their expressions changed. Even the high-ranking officials of Konoha and the clan leaders of Konoha, the real big men in Konoha village, could not help but be surprised. Only Danzo's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a cold smile. The third Hokage had a calm expression, unperturbed. Hyuga Hayashi said, "If giving up one person can exchange for the peace of the whole Konoha, even if it means giving up my life, I will not have any complaints." As soon as these words came out, the clan leaders and high-ranking officials who advocated the war could not sit still immediately, and directly questioned, "Hayashi, do you know what you are talking about? The Uchiha kid saved your daughter, are you so disloyal?" Hyuga Hayashi looked calm, and said to the Konoha high-level officials and clan leaders present, "I said 107, this decision is not made for my Hyuga clan, but for the entire Konoha and the entire ninja world. We all know that Konoha can no longer withstand a major war. I know that I am sorry for the Uchiha child by making this decision, but," at this point, a trace of struggle and guilt flashed in Hinata Hayashi's eyes, and he sighed and said, "It's just. I have no choice. For Konoha, for peace, I am willing to sacrifice my life, even Hinata's life." Everyone present was silent. Admittedly, Danzo's previous words might have made them want to refute, but Hyuga Hayashi's words were different. As an eyewitness and the reputation he had accumulated in the past, his words could change many people's minds to a certain extent, and thus rethink the issue, for the so-called face, is it worth it to go to war with Union Village? But there are still some stubborn pro-war factions who still refuse to accept. However, compared to before, the number has decreased a lot. At this time, the third generation turned his eyes to Uchiha Fugaku, the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, who had been silent from beginning to end. Although the contradiction between Konoha and the Uchiha clan has become increasingly intensified, it has almost reached the point of being incompatible. In recent times, all ceremonies and meetings have avoided the Uchiha clan, but this time, after all, it is related to the Uchiha clan. As the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku cannot be absent. The third generation looked at Fugaku and asked, "Fugaku, Qianye is a member of your Uchiha clan, what do you think?" Fugaku half closed his eyes, folded his arms and leaned back in his chair, without saying a word. No one present, no matter how hot-tempered or how hostile to the Uchiha clan was, urged him, because they all knew that this was a difficult and very important decision. Hyuga Hayashi had already expressed his opinion. Now Fugaku's words could even directly determine the direction of this matter. If Fugaku agreed to hand over Uchiha Qianye, then everything would be settled. If he disagreed, then there would be room for discussion. This was the opinion of the vast majority of people present. However, this did not include Danzo and the third Hokage. Handing over Uchiha Qianye had already been decided. Now it was just a pretense to go through a process. For this reason, they also made a special trip to persuade the Hyuga clan. They believed that as long as they persuaded the Hyuga clan, then there won't be any real obstacles. As for the Uchiha clan, anyway, the night of the Uchiha clan extermination is coming, and the entire Uchiha clan will be destroyed. What's the use of their words? At that time, using a corpse to exchange for the peace of the entire Konoha, even the most determined pro-war faction will not refuse. However, even so, they are still a little curious. As the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, what decision will Uchiha Fugaku make? Time passed bit by bit. Everyone was waiting patiently without urging. They were afraid that because of themselves, things would develop in the opposite direction. After about a quarter of an hour, Uchiha Fugaku, who had hesitated for a long time, opened his eyes and said slowly, "I thought that although I am the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, I can't decide the life and death of any member of the Uchiha clan." "What do you mean?" someone nearby asked in doubt. Uchiha Fugaku said word by word, "Let Uchiha Qianye decide his own fate." Joke. He is just a kid. How can he understand what is trade-off, what is peace, and what is sacrifice? Someone nearby immediately said sarcastically, expressing his opposition. In their opinion, this is an obvious problem. Using one person's life in exchange for the peace of the entire village is acceptable to most people, but when that person is yourself, how many people can accept it? To read the exciting novel, go to Faloo Novel Network. They don't think Qianye will have such a high level of awareness, Danzo also said. Patriarch Fugaku, isn't this a bit too frivolous? Fugaku shook his head and refused to give in. I don't think so. At this time, the head of the Hyuga clan, Hyuga Hisashi, also said, I agree with this matter. Uchiha Qianye should not have died in a confused state. He should know what he died for. Danzo frowned and was about to say something, but was interrupted by the third Hokage. Well, since both Fugaku and Hayashi said so, let's bring Uchiha Qianye over. Let's hear what he thinks. The third generation Sarutobi Hiruzen made the final decision. Danzo next to him frowned, his lips moved slightly, but in the end he said nothing. Well, calling him over won't change anything anyway, let the kid from the Uchiha clan die knowingly. Next to him, several Umbu ninjas who followed the third generation suddenly appeared and disappeared quickly, but after a while, when they reappeared, there was a young man beside them. It was Uchiha Qianye. After Qianye entered the conference room, his eyes swept through the people on the scene one by one. Even though he didn't know any news in advance, he still had some speculations in his mind. He noticed that in the corner of the conference table, Yuzuki Yugao, Chinri Kurenai, and Might Guy had concerned eyes, but more of them were the scrutinizing eyes of Konoha's senior officials and clan leaders, which made people feel a little uncomfortable. Everyone also looked at this young ninja who has become famous in recent days. Killed Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and killed the messenger of Kumikage village. They couldn't help but secretly praise him in their hearts. What courage! Those present were all the clan leaders of Konoha's various clans, and the worst were also high-ranking officials of Konoha. They were real big shots. Ordinary ninjas would inevitably be a little nervous and unnatural when they saw them, but Uchiha Qianye was able to remain calm and without any changes, as if he was seeing an ordinary person. Not to mention other things, just this courage alone has surpassed most of the ninjas in Konoha. Not to mention, Uchiha Qianye also has the ability to kill Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and the messenger of Kumikage village. These two are not easy characters to deal with. It's just a pity. He is a member of the Uchiha clan, but he encountered things that he shouldn't care about and offended people who shouldn't care about. Hokage, Uchiha Qianye has been brought here. The ninja from the Umbu said to the third generation Sarutobi Hiruzen. Yes. The third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. The 2 ninjas from the Umbu understood and disappeared with a flash technique. Afterwards, the third Hokage ordered someone to tell Uchiha Qianye about the current situation in general, and then asked, Qianye, this matter started because of you. I think you should know that, and I also want to know what you mean. Qianye did not answer directly after hearing this, but looked at Uchiha Fugaku. Fugaku nodded at Qianye. Qianye understood immediately. This is the biggest opportunity that Fugaku said he could get. Fugaku would not let the entire Uchiha clan in Konoha go to war in advance because of Qianye. He could only let him decide his own fate. After a slight pause, Qianye spoke directly and said word by word, I don't want to. This answer is not surprising. On the contrary, this is exactly the result of the inner speculation of most people present. This is a choice between life and death. How many people will choose death? Almost as soon as the voice fell, a group of people who advocated handing over Qianye in order to seek peace began to rebuke. I just want to say, he is just a child, what can he understand? It's useless to ask him to make a choice. It's just a waste of our time. Uchiha boy, you are so ignorant. To die for Konoha and for peace is an honor that many people dream of. Do you understand? Soon, the buzzing voices became louder and louder. Snap! The Sanda slammed the table hard, making a crisp sound, and the chaotic order suddenly quieted down. Everyone also realized that it was not good to do this for a child's words. Danzo looked at Uchiha Fugaku with a smile and asked, Clan leader Fugaku, so, is this your answer? Chapter 55. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Chiba, I will just watch you act quietly. Yes. Uchiha Fugaku nodded, stood up, walked to Uchiha Qianye's side, protected Qianye behind him, and also expressed his attitude. Qianye was not surprised by this. Fugaku is the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, and the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Konoha is at a time when they are incompatible. although Fugaku said that he would not go to war with the entire Konoha for Qianye, he would definitely not just watch Qianye being dealt with by Konoha, otherwise, when the news gets back, the Uchiha clan will definitely be outraged. And he will no longer be the patriarch, no matter what the final decision is, at least he has to pretend. So, does the Uchiha clan have to be the enemy of our Konoha? Danzo half squinted his eyes, and there was already a hint of threat in his words. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere of the whole meeting became tense. Those present were all real big shots in Konoha village. How could they not know about the conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha clan? In fact, it was precisely because of the existence of the Uchiha clan that Konoha fell into a dilemma and had to sacrifice its face to seek peace. Otherwise, with the reputation of Konoha as the #1 village in the ninja world, even if the 4th Hokage died and the 3 ninjas disappeared, they might not really be afraid of the hidden Cloud village. It's just that the conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha has become more and more intense. If the war with the Cloud Shadow village is added, I'm afraid Konoha will collapse in an instant. Now, Danzo openly questioned the Uchiha clan. Wave Fugaku, I wonder how Fugaku will respond. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Fugaku. Fugaku appeared calm, cold and fearless, but in fact, there were some waves in his heart. Qianye is a member of the Uchiha clan. He can't turn a blind eye, otherwise he will lose his prestige in the Uchiha clan. Even under the public outrage, it may directly arouse the conflict between the radicals and Konoha, triggering a war. At that time, the situation will become completely uncontrollable. This is something he absolutely does not want to see, so he has to come forward now. He is also betting that Konoha village will not dare to go to war with the Uchiha clan when there is a strong enemy like Union village outside. Fugaku said, Danzo, you are just one person, do you dare to represent the entire Konoha? Do you think you can represent the Hokage? When these words came out, the eyes of everyone present flashed. Back then, the Hokage dispute between Danzo and the current 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen caused quite a stir in the entire Konoha. In the end, Sarutobi Hiruzen won. This matter has always been a knot in Danzo's heart, but at this time, Fugaku brought it up in public and ridiculed it. With Danzo's temper, how could he let it go? He half squinted his eyes with a gloomy face, and was about to explode when he was stopped by the 3rd Hokage. The 3rd Hokage looked at Fugaku and said lightly, Patriarch Fugaku, I have a suggestion. We are all the clan leaders and high-ranking officials of Konoha. Let's vote together to decide this matter. How about it? Fugaku thought for a moment, then turned his head to look at Qianye and asked what Qianye thought. Qianye nodded. He didn't care about these things at all. He was not something that these people could control now. He had the absolute strength to ignore all this. The reason why he stayed in Konoha and endured all this was just for the 5th simulation. Okay. Fugaku nodded and agreed to this. At the same time, he was relieved. Things finally did not develop to the worst. Yes. The 3rd generation stood up and looked at the clan leaders and Konoha's high-ranking officials present. Do you have any objections? Everyone shook their heads. As the 3rd generation was preparing to speak and start voting, a weak voice suddenly came from the end of the meeting room. Hokage-sama, can we vote too? Everyone looked back, and it turned out that the one who spoke was a young chunin. There were several young ninjas beside her. They were Yuzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurinai, Asuma, Hei-8, and Might Guy, among them, except for Asuma, who was the son of the Hokage and was used to seeing these big shots. The rest seemed a little restrained. After all, they were too young in both age and experience. If they were not included in the facilities, such a meeting would not be accessible to them at all. Others also regarded them as small transparent people and did not take them seriously at all. Unexpectedly, they would stand up and speak at this critical moment of voting. The 3rd generation looked at the few people in the corner and hesitated for a moment, and said, since you have participated in this meeting, of course you have the right to vote. Hearing that they also had the right to vote, Yuhi Kurinai, Yuzuki Yugao and others had a flash of joy on their faces. Yuhi Kurinai let out a long breath, trying to calm her mind as much as possible, and then said, I don't agree to hand Uchiha Qianye over to the Cloud Shadow village. I think what Qianye did was not only right, but also meritorious. It was the Qianye village that was wrong. How could we Konoha succumb to the Qianye village? Then, Yuzuki Yugao and Might Guy stood firmly beside Yuhi Kurenai. Asuma and Heiei were the only ones who did not vote. This also made everyone focus on the two of them. Might Guy next to him winked at Asuma and Heiei frantically. He didn't understand why he was still standing there hesitating. Qianye was their partner and teammate, but Asuma and Heiei still stood there. Asuma, what about you? What will you choose? The third generation stared at Asuma and asked. To read exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. Asuma half lowered his head, his brows tightly furrowed because of his inner hesitation. Others can't see anything, but it doesn't mean that he can't see anything. Most of those who advocate peace are close friends with his father, the third generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, and some of them can even be said to obey his father's orders. In other words, to resolve the issue peacefully and hand over Uchiha Qianye was actually his father's intention. But, Uchiha Qianye, he was not wrong. Asuma's heart fell into endless entanglement. After a while, he raised his head and said word by word, I don't understand the so-called peace and sacrifice. I only recognize right and wrong. I think Uchiha Qianye did nothing wrong. If I encountered the same thing, I would make the same choice as him. Uchiha Qianye, you should not be punished. After saying that, he stood together with Yuhi Kurenai, Yuzuki Yugao and others. Following closely behind him was Heiei. At one time, several young people made their choices, all supporting Qianye. In this regard, those who advocated a peaceful solution to the matter could not help but feel unhappy. Are a few Chunin and Jonin worthy of voting with them? However, they did not say much. After all, this was the word of the Hokage. Moreover, those children could not change the situation too much. Qianye nodded secretly, and a few strands of warmth flowed through his heart. They were not of high status and young, but they were willing to fight for this step for him, especially Asuma and Heiei. It was even more unexpected. These two people have never gotten along well with him. Now at this critical moment, they still withstood the huge pressure. And stood on his side. Asuma, Heiei, these two people are not without merit. Konoha is not all foolish and cowardly, and only seeks pleasure. It's just a pity that with these corrupt senior officials, many people are destined to not be able to make a name for themselves. The votes of several young ninjas did not cause much waves. Soon, the rest of the people also began to vote. They were much simpler, because what to say and what it meant had been made very clear in the previous discussions and debates, and there was no need to say it again. Among the clan leaders and Konoha senior officials present, those who originally advocated war occupied the majority. It was just that after Danzo, especially the Hyuga clan leader Hyuga Hayashi, spoke, many people present were shaken. It also made this vote more suspenseful. The voting was completed quickly. Yuzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai and others carefully counted the numbers at the first time. 1.2 12, 22, one more. We have one more person on our side. Yuhi Kurenai said excitedly. Yuzuki Yugao and Might Guy beside her also had happy expressions on their faces. The faces of the peace advocates on the other side were a little ugly. At this moment, someone suddenly said, "Don't worry, there is still one person who hasn't voted." Everyone looked over and saw that the only person who had not expressed his opinion was sitting upright on the chair. That it was the Hyuga clan leader, Hyuga Hayashi. Everyone present remembered Hyuga Hayashi's previous speech, and they all knew clearly what choice he would make. However, no one could have imagined that at the critical moment when Uchiha Qianye was about to escape, the person who pushed him off the cliff was actually the father of the person he saved. This made the smiles on the faces of Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai gradually disappear. On the contrary, the peace-loving faction finally calmed down a little. Don't worry about whether you can win or not, at least you didn't lose. Hayashi, it's your turn. The third generation said calmly. Hyuga Hayashi stood up and walked forward step by step. Everyone around was shocked, because he was walking in the direction of Qianye. However, before they could fully recover, Hayashi made another move that surprised everyone present. He bent down and bowed 90 degrees. The head of the Hyuga clan, who had a very high status in Konoha, paid such a great tribute to a young man. Uchiha Qianye, thank you for saving my daughter. I should stand on your side. But I have said before that even if I encounter the same thing myself, I will choose to die calmly. For the sake of Konoha and peace, I can only apologize to you. Sorry. After saying that, he stood up and walked to the side of the peace faction. Chapter 56. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Obito, you also agree with this rotten Konoha. Qianye got into such trouble in order to save Hyuga Hayashi's daughter, but at this critical moment of life and death, Hyuga Hayashi did not choose to stand with Qianye. He also said something that sounded very noble. However, Qianye did not have any aversion in his heart. First, the reason why he saved Hinata was just his personal thoughts and actions. He never thought about whether he could get any benefits by saving Hinata, or whether he could take the opportunity to get in touch with the Hyuga clan. Second, he knew very well that what Hyuga Hayashi said was true. In the original development of the incident, it was Hyuga Hayashi, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, who saved Hyuga Hinata and killed the messenger of Union village. Faced with the same situation as Qianye now, he was willing to show his life in order to save the peace of the village. Later, although Hayashi did not die, he also sacrificed the life of his own brother Hyuga Hayashi. For the peace of the village, he was willing to sacrifice his life. This approach is of course respectable, but it does not mean that he agrees. After Hyuga Hayashi voted, everything was settled. The votes from both sides were the same. Originally, I wanted to draw a conclusion based on this, but I didn't expect it to be like this in the end. At this time, Danzo whispered something about 8, 6, and 0, into the Sandai's ear. The Sandai nodded slightly, as if he agreed with Danzo's move, and then said, the votes from both sides are the same, and it's difficult for me to make this decision. Why not put this aside for now? We all need to think carefully about what is the best way. All the high-ranking officials of Konoha and the clan leaders of each clan did not object. Today's talks have come to this point. It would be difficult to reach a conclusion even if we continue to talk. It would just be a waste of time. The best way is to discuss it later. What about Uchiha Qianye? He already knows how we are going to treat him. What if he escapes during this period of time? Someone said. The peace advocates nearby agreed with him and shouted, that's right, lock him up. We can't just leave it alone like we did before. Most of the pro-war factions held an indifferent attitude. They never advocated war for Uchiha Qianye, but just to save Konoha's face. Only a few people like Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai showed anger, but because of their low status, their words had no weight, so they had to keep silent. The third generation thought for a while, and said to Uchiha Fugaku on the side, clan leader Fugaku, Uchiha Qianye is a member of your Uchiha clan, he is handed over to you. Fugaku nodded and agreed to this matter. Those people didn't say anything more. They were relieved to hand Qianye over to Fugaku. Fugaku had to be responsible for handing Qianye over to Fugaku, otherwise he would have to bear the responsibility. One Uchiha Qianye could run away, but could such a large Uchiha clan run away? This matter also came to an end. Uchiha Fugaku took Qianye away. Yuhi, Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao originally wanted to say something to Qianye, but in the end they were deterred. They had already offended a considerable number of Konoha's high-level officials and clan leaders in the previous voting. If they were to confront the Uchiha clan in public like this, the Uchiha clan showed too much intimacy, and it will be difficult for them to survive in Konoha in the future. Especially after this meeting, they are no longer as ignorant as before, and they have the best expectations for everything. For the first time, they really saw the corruption of Konoha. For the so-called peace, they can ignore right and wrong and sacrifice the lives of people who should have made contributions. This is the dark side of the seemingly beautiful and bright Konoha. After everyone left, the third generation deliberately kept Yuzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, Asuma, and others. After this meeting, are you disappointed with Konoha? The third generation looked calm and spoke slowly in his usual kind voice, I dare not. Suhi Hong and the others said hurriedly, don't be fooled by the harmless appearance of the third generation. This is the Hokage. The more you grow up, the more you know that those who can become Hokage are not simple people. Don't be afraid. Maybe in your opinion, the actions of many people at today's meeting are incredible. However, this is also a temporary helpless act. Only when you stand high enough, have broader knowledge and richer experience, will you understand that in this life, not everything can be done according to your heart. You may not understand this now, but you will understand it one day in the future. The third generation's eyes passed from Asuma to Might Guy and the others in turn. You are all extremely talented among the younger generation of Konoha. In the future, Konoha will rely on you to continue to grow. Where the leaves of Konoha dance, the fire will never cease. The future of Konoha depends on you. What happened in today's meeting is the top secret of our Konoha, and it must not be spread out. We in Konoha can no longer withstand a change in a new place. Yuhi Kurenai, Yuzuki Yugao, and Asuma all nodded and agreed. Even after they fully understood the whole story, they couldn't help but be angry. Once it spreads, there will definitely be many people who have the same idea as them. This is especially true in the Uchiha clan, therefore, this matter must be kept secret. As for the others, some people don't quite understand, they can't fully understand the words of the third generation, but for some reason, as the third generation finished speaking, the anger at the outcome of Qianye's treatment slowly subsided. All of this is for Konoha. There is nothing that can't be understood. It's just, is it really right to sacrifice Qianye's life for this? The novel was taken from the Thrala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. They are still not sure, but they didn't ask again. On the other side, Fugaku took Qianye out of the meeting room and took him to the Konoha guard department in order to reassure the Konoha high-ranking officials, I have no choice but to inconvenience you by keeping you here for the time being. I will send someone to arrange everything. The environment here is not too good, but it won't be too hard either. Qianye nodded. It didn't matter where it was. What was important was the fifth simulation of the system. He wanted a space where he would not be disturbed at all. To read exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. That was enough. As for the environment, it really didn't matter. Before leaving, Fugaku said, don't worry, I will do my best to keep you safe. Even if I can't guarantee you safety, I will try to delay the time. 3 months, at most, I can prepare everything. By then, we will kill Danzo and have the capital to negotiate with Konoha, and you will be safe. After saying that, he left directly. Qianye was imprisoned in the prison. As expected, I have finally arrived here. Qianye looked at the surroundings and recognized that this was the prison where he was imprisoned during the fourth simulation. After calming down a little, he immediately sat down and began to practice. As for what Uchiha Fugaku said before he left, he didn't care at all. It was just a joke. 3 months. I'm afraid there won't even be 3 days. The night of the Uchiha clan extermination planned by Danzo and tacitly approved by the third Hokage is coming soon. There is no time for you to prepare. It's the same as before. Fugaku is not a bad person. If he is in a more peaceful and stable environment, he will also be a good clan leader. However, under the current situation, Fugaku is somewhat incompetent. Indecisive, weak and lacking in foresight, it is not surprising that the Uchiha clan has fallen into the current situation. In the shadows outside the Konoha guard, the masked man stood alone, staring at the Konoha guard, wondering what he was thinking. After a while, a white figure slowly emerged from a tree next to him. Hehe, do you want to accept Jinchūriki into our organization? The white figure asked. Yeah. The masked man nodded. He is a man of merit, but he has to sacrifice his life for the so-called peace. Being betrayed by the village, Uchiha Fugaku did not show a tough attitude. He must be filled with anger. Yes. The white figure chuckled, and then continued, the important thing is that our organization is short of manpower, and Uchiha Qianye is strong enough to be a member of our organization. But why didn't he resist? With his strength, if he wanted to leave, there would be few people in Konoha village who could stop him. Speaking of this, the white figure couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. He had personally seen Qianye kill Jinchūriki with his own eyes, clean and neat, without any drag. Such a master, even if he is not at the level of Kage, is not much different. Why did he just sit there and wait for death? The masked man didn't speak. He was also a little puzzled. 0.2 He had personally witnessed Uchiha Qianye's power, such speed and responsiveness. Even he suffered some losses due to his carelessness. Such strength must have reached the level of Kage. Why did he just sit there and wait for death? At night, Uchiha Qianye was sitting on the bed meditating and practicing, and there was silence all around. He suddenly opened his eyes, and his Sharingan began to work, turning blood red. However, it was not the Mangekyo Sharingan, but the ordinary 3 Magatama Sharingan, unless it was in a simulation, or when it was absolutely necessary. He was not willing to reveal his full strength. The next second, a vortex appeared in front of him in the void. Then a figure slowly emerged. It was the masked man. It's you. Qianye looked calm, and even seeing the masked man did not cause any big fluctuations in his heart, because now he has the strength. It's me, but don't get too excited, I mean no harm. In fact, I came here just for you. The masked man said in his usual deep and majestic voice. Oh. Qianye's eyes flashed. Chapter 57. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Obito's deception and Chiba's other plan. He was the meritorious person who saved the eldest daughter of the Hyuga family, but he was treated like this. Not only is there no reward, but you also have to take the blame for the so-called peace. Are you really willing to accept your fate? The masked man persuaded him patiently, and his voice seemed to carry a kind of magic that made people change their emotions unconsciously. Qianye seemed to understand why the masked man came to him. Was it to recruit him? As far as he knew, the masked man's organization Akatsuki had gone through 3 stages of development. The first was the period of development. It was a mercenary organization that did not belong to any country. It continued to expand its members and grow its power, so as to accept more tasks and gather a lot of money. The second was the period of capturing tailed beasts. The main purpose was to collect tailed beasts, to manufacture tailed beast weapons, and to use tailed beasts to conquer the world. The third was Akatsuki. During the Fourth Ninja World War, with the help of Kabuto Yakushi, they used the impure world reincarnation and 100,000 white Zetsu to show incredible power, and even needed the entire ninja world needs to unite to fight. Judging from the time, the current Akatsuki should still be in the first stage, that is, the period of survival and development. The Akatsuki at this stage is not the first terrifying organization that people will be terrified of in later generations. Its members are not yet complete, and its strength is far from strong enough. Therefore, he became the target of the masked man, to join Akatsuki. After the night of the Uchiha Genocide, even if he could survive safely, Konoha could no longer accommodate him. He must find another place to go. Akatsuki may be a good choice. The masked man put his hands behind his back, maintaining his usual majestic and deep appearance. Qianye did not answer, nor did he react much. These were all within his expectations. During this period of time, he had already learned a lot of information about Uchiha Qianye through various means. He knew what kind of person Qianye was. If he had a big reaction because of his words, it would make him more suspicious. What do you want to do? After a while, Qianye spoke. The masked man said, I can save you. Save me? Qianye asked back, yes, save you, and only I can save you. The masked man stared at Qianye closely, as if he wanted to see something from Qianye's face. I know that with your strength, Konoha can't stop you if you want to leave. I'm not talking about this, but another more dangerous crisis. Qianye didn't say anything. His face was as calm as before. He already knew what that huge crisis was. What do you think of the Uchiha clan? The masked man suddenly asked. Ignorant, corrupt, arrogant, weak, and hopeless. Qianye replied. The masked man was moved. Very good, he was right. Uchiha Qianye was not sociable since he was a child. He had no friends and no sense of belonging, but he was also a very smart and scheming person. After such people truly saw the corruption and darkness of the Konoha high-level officials and the Uchiha clan, they would often burst out with the most extreme thoughts, and this was exactly what he needed. Yes, this is the Uchiha clan, they have long been beyond redemption. So, I decided to destroy it. Destroy the Uchiha clan, the largest clan in Konoha. It sounds a bit arrogant, but Qianye knows that the masked man does have this ability. However, he can't reveal all of this, so he still pretends to be a little surprised and asked, is this the more dangerous crisis you mentioned? Destroy the Uchiha clan. This is the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. The masked man's voice was still calm, but it was enough to stir up huge waves in the hearts of those who heard it. Such news was shocking enough. Besides me, Uchiha Itachi from the Uchiha clan also participated in the mission. Konoha's root organization, Danzo, and the top leaders will cooperate with our operation. In addition, there are some shadow-level strongmen hiding in the dark to ensure that this mission can proceed smoothly without any accidents. The night of the Uchiha clan extermination is inevitable, and no one can stop it. Even if it's you, it won't work. Qianye narrowed his eyes little by little, and his expression became more and more serious. Although all this was just an act, The masked man was obviously very satisfied with this performance, thinking that he had won. "What do you want from me?" Qianye asked. "Come with me, join my organization, and you can avoid the Uchiha clan extermination night." The masked man said lightly, "Avoid the Uchiha clan extermination night?" "It seems that it is not impossible." Qianye was stunned. He worked so hard and went through so many simulations, but in the end he spent the Uchiha clan extermination night in this way. It was really unexpected, but it was reasonable. After all, with his current strength, it was not surprising that he was favored by the masked man. "Do you really want to join?" To survive in a more secure way, Qianye had such a question and was still hesitant. To read the exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. The masked man continued. "Where there is light in this world, there must be darkness. If you want to protect peace, war will definitely be triggered, but I have a way to create a world with only winners and only peace. So, I founded an organization, Shao, to help me create such a world together. Qianye, join my organization, you will not be disappointed." Qianye groaned in silence. The masked man did not ask any more questions, but just said, "I can give you time to think about it, but it won't be too long. I hope that next time I come to you, you have made the right decision." After he finished speaking, a vortex appeared in the air, and the masked man's body slowly twisted and gradually disappeared. Qianye was the only one left in the prison again. All along, he subconsciously regarded the masked man as an enemy. He didn't expect that when the night of genocide was really approaching, there would be such a big reversal. It really makes people feel that things in the world are unpredictable. If he made this choice, if nothing unexpected happened, he would not even need to put in any effort to get through the Uchiha genocide night smoothly. As for possible accidents, he was not afraid at all. Anyway, before the night of genocide began, he still had the fifth simulation, and no matter what happened, he would be able to detect it in advance. Now, what he has to consider is, do he really want to do this? On the other side, on the Hokage rock of Konoha village, a masked man stood alone with his hands behind his back. Behind him, Uchiha Itachi walked over step by step. "What do you want to talk to me about?" Itachi asked. The masked man didn't turn around, and said lightly, "An old friend of yours may join us. When that plan comes, we will have one less hidden danger." "Old friend?" Uchiha Itachi narrowed his eyes, thought for a while, and then asked, "Uchiha Qianye?" Said the masked man. It was indeed him. Itachi frowned slightly, with no expression of joy or sadness. After a slight pause, he asked, "Why do you want Uchiha Qianye to join?" "Because he is strong enough to join our organization, and our organization happens to be in need of people." The masked man turned around and looked at Itachi, saying jokingly, "Why, he is a member of the Uchiha clan and an old friend of yours. I thought you would welcome him. But now it seems that it is not the case." Itachi said calmly, "This is not something I can decide. You know the deal between me, the third generation, and Danzo. It's not that I can't tolerate Uchiha Qianye, but that they can't tolerate it. I have no choice but to take action." After saying this, he turned and left, but before he had gone far, the voice of the masked man came from behind him. "Itachi, don't underestimate Uchiha Qianye, he is very powerful." Itachi did not look back. He never underestimated anyone. No matter what kind of opponent he faced, he would go all out and remain cautious. Moreover, this was the second time that the masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara emphasized the power of Qianye. He had already placed Qianye on the same level. Uchiha Qianye could not stay. This was for the promise with Danzo, for Sasuke, and for Konoha. Such a big threat must not be left behind. However, before that, he still needed to inform the third generation and Danzo of the news, but too much. After a while, Itachi appeared silently in the office of the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. At that time, the night had fallen and it was already dark, but the third Hokage, who was known for his diligence, was still correcting the documents that seemed to never end. The moment Itachi appeared, the pen in the third Hokage's hand suddenly paused, and then continued to move, although the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen's strength was not as strong as the first and second Hokage. He was definitely not weak. It's not that Itachi entered his office and he didn't know anything. "Itachi, you are here." The third generation did not raise his head and continued to review the documents. Uchiha Itachi walked out of the darkness little by little and bowed to the third generation. "You're here so late, what happened?" The voice of the third generation was a little old, but gentle and kind, unconsciously giving people a very stable and trustworthy feeling. This is also one of the reasons why Itachi believed that Konoha would definitely fulfill its promise with him. He didn't trust Danzo, but he believed in the third generation. Uchiha Qianye might join the masked man's organization. Itachi didn't beat around the bush and came straight to the point. The Sanda frowned and paused holding the pen. Since he had decided to kill, he had to kill them all. The fewer people who knew, the better. Uchiha Itachi was indispensable in the night of genocide, and he trusted Uchiha Itachi. As for the masked man, although he didn't trust him, with Uchiha Itachi always watching him, nothing should go wrong. He could barely accept it, but Uchiha Qianye, one more person means one more hidden danger. Chapter 58. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Probing in action. Itachi's private conversation with the third generation. Just now, the masked man asked me to meet him and told me this news. He also reminded me that Uchiha Qianye is very strong. Itachi calmly told the Sanda the information that the masked man had talked to him. The Sanda squinted his eyes, looking thoughtful. He noticed two words, very strong. Uchiha Qianye is very strong. Such an evaluation coming from the unfathomable masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara could not help but attract his attention. The Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke before, Uchiha Itachi later, and now there is another Uchiha Qianye. Our plan, does Uchiha Qianye know about it? The third generation asked. Maybe. Itachi replied, since the masked man intends to recruit Uchiha Qianye, he should have told him all the information. The third generation did not say much about this, because he knew that since the masked man told Uchiha Qianye the news, it meant that Uchiha Qianye would not leak the news. After all, in this plan, the reason why the masked man, if you decide to do something, you must have some interests to gain. You will never leak the news so easily. Has Uchiha Qianye also opened the Mangekyo Sharingan? The third Hokage asked after a while. As far as he knew, the original Uchiha Qianye was just an ordinary jonin who opened the three Magatama Sharingan. He could be considered good at most in Konoha, even though he later killed Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village. He didn't care too much, because, whether it was Kuroki Raiga or the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village, they certainly couldn't be said to be weak, but it also depends on who they were compared with. Compared with ordinary jonin, of course, he was considered powerful. But he was definitely not to the point that the masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara said he was very strong. In other words, even if the previous Uchiha Qianye had hidden his strength, he was at most an elite jonin. It was absolutely impossible for him to reach the level of Kage. It made no sense that a Kage-level strongman appeared in Konoha, and he, as the Hokage, knew nothing about it. This is simply impossible, he was sure of it, unless there was a sudden huge improvement in strength. This kind of improvement is of course hard to see in ordinary ninjas, but the Uchiha clan is different. They have a way to increase their strength in a short period of time, that is to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi was stunned. Mangekyo Sharingan. He carefully recalled the previous few meetings with Qianye. He did not notice anything unusual. There are two possibilities for this situation. Either Uchiha Qianye really did not awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, or the other party's pupil power is still above his. But, does this second possibility really exist? He instinctively felt that it was unlikely. The Mangekyo Sharingan is not so easy to awaken. After a slight hesitation, Itachi said again, I heard from the masked man that Uchiha Qianye has extraordinary physical skills. Extraordinary physical skills. The third generation thought about it for a moment, and couldn't help but feel relieved. That's right, the conditions for opening the Mangekyo Sharingan are very harsh. It requires the stimulation of hatred, and even more so, unparalleled talent. Over the past thousands of years, only a few people in the Uchiha clan have been able to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. This generation already has Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi. If there is another Uchiha Qianye, it would be too exaggerated. Physical skills, extraordinary physical skills. Is this the ability of Uchiha Qianye that the masked man values? The third generation still felt that it was a little unreliable, but compared to Uchiha Qianye awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan, he still prefers to believe that it was this unparalleled physical skill that attracted the attention of the masked man. Itachi, what do you think we should do about this matter? Uchiha Itachi said, I am willing to listen to the instructions of the Hokage. Yes. The third generation nodded. He trusted Uchiha Itachi's loyalty very much. Uchiha Chiba must not be left alive. A somewhat cold voice suddenly came out from the darkness. Then, Danzo slowly walked out. Neither Uchiha Itachi nor the third generation was too surprised. In fact, he knew Danzo was there when Itachi came in. However, Danzo did not say anything, so he just pretended not to know. I don't trust him and I absolutely cannot let him survive the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. Hiruzen, you should know that once this plan is revealed, it will have a huge impact on you, me, and even the entire Konoha. Uchiha Qianye must not be left behind. This time, after the last meeting, Uchiha Qianye must have developed a deep hatred towards our Konoha. Keeping him here would be a disaster. We will pay the price for this sooner or later. Itachi, I order you to kill him. You have the Mangekyo Sharingan, he will not be your opponent. Danzo looked at Uchiha Itachi and gave the order. To read exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. Itachi frowned slightly, but did not say much, nor did he follow the order. He has always hated Danzo. He hated this condescending attitude even more. If it were not for his inner concerns, he might have been unable to help but attack Danzo and avenge his good friend Uchiha Shisui. Seeing that Itachi did not say a word, Danzo's face became even gloomier, and his heart was full of anger. However, he did not explode, because now he still needs Uchiha Itachi to do things for him. There is no need to make the relationship too stiff. He looked at the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen again and said, Hiruzen, you must make a decision as soon as possible. You know, Uchiha Qianye already knows our plan. Every moment he lives is a threat to us. No one can be sure that he will not reveal our plan. Once, the masked man was wrong, causing Uchiha Qianye to tell the news to the Uchiha clan. What kind of severe situation will our Konoha face? With the Uchiha clan inside and the Kumikage village outside, we must never see such a situation happen, absolutely not. Danzo's words made the third generation frown even tighter. Originally due to old age, there were many wrinkles on his face, but now it looks more like a crumpled paper. Yes, although, he prefers to believe that the masked man will not make any mistakes, but who can be absolutely sure that there will be no mistakes? The probability is not high, but what if? The Uchiha clan is the largest clan in Konoha. Although their strength is not as good as that of the entire Konoha, it should not be underestimated. If the plan is leaked and the Uchiha clan is prepared in advance, what a difficult situation they will face, and what huge losses they will suffer. Thinking of this, the third generation couldn't help but let out a long breath, and made a decision in his heart. He raised his head, looked at Itachi and said, Itachi, in order to implement the plan smoothly, I can only let you go. Uchiha Itachi nodded, used a flash technique, and left directly that in Konoha's prison. Uchiha Qianye was practicing. Although he already knew that he could survive the Uchiha clan extermination night smoothly, he still did not relax his vigilance. For him, the clan extermination night is definitely not an end, but just a stage. He still has a long way to go, and he will encounter many more powerful opponents and more difficult problems. Only his own strength can guarantee that he can survive. Smoothly, he had understood this truth a long time ago. So he had to practice hard and improve himself step by step. But suddenly, Uchiha Qianye, who was originally practicing, opened his eyes and said lightly, You are here. In the darkness in front of him, Uchiha Itachi slowly walked out. He looked cold and had a hint of murderous intent. Qianye seemed to realize something, but he didn't care too much. After all, with his current strength, there are really not many things that can make him care. He noticed that in addition to Uchiha Itachi, there were several forces spying around. One of them was very powerful, the masked man. And the others were much weaker. They were probably some ninjas from the Root organization. I'm here to kill you. You know something you shouldn't know, so I have to take action against you. Uchiha Itachi said straight to the point without hiding anything. In response, Qianye just chuckled. He had encountered the same scene countless times, but this time, it was in real life, not a simulation. nor on the night of genocide. Itachi seemed to be a little irritated by Qianye's calm expression, which made him feel looked down upon, and this feeling was something he had never encountered since he grew up. Qian Zhao, without saying much, he took action directly. A kunai suddenly appeared in Itachi's hand, however, Qianye ignored it at all, and punched back in a posture that an ordinary person would never think of, but unexpectedly, this punch hit. Itachi was hit hard and fell to the ground. He frowned, with a hint of disbelief on his face. How could this be possible? From the moment he came in, the conversation with Qianye from beginning to end was just a clone. While his real body was hidden, the clone showed the kunai to attract Qianye's attention and create an opportunity for the real body hidden in the dark to kill with one blow. Each step was carefully planned by him. Ordinary people should not be able to see through it at all. How could it be possible? Qianye remained calm, with a hint of teasing in his expression. Itachi's plan was indeed powerful, but he had fought with Itachi dozens of times. He knew all of Itachi's moves. It is no exaggeration to say that Itachi just had an idea, and Qianye already knew what the follow-up action would be. This is how the current scene came about. Itachi slowly stood up from the ground and brushed off the dust on his body. The failure of the previous attack did not make him feel bad, but made him more excited. He hasn't encountered such a powerful opponent for a long time. Chapter 59. You are listening at novelfull.audio. See through it all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In this small prison, two figures were moving at an extraordinary speed. It was Uchiha Itachi who kept throwing kunai and shuriken to launch the attack, and Qianye who kept dodging. Originally, Qianye had many easier ways to defeat Uchiha Itachi, for example, would release, or 80 God's air attack, and the Lord of Elements, all of which could solve the opponent in a short time, but these were his secrets at the bottom of the box, and they could not be easily exposed, which made this battle a little troublesome, but it was only a little troublesome, as Qianye continued to gain golden abilities. His own strength was also growing at an extraordinary speed. His Otsutsuki physique was already far beyond what it was when he first got it, whether it was agility, resistance to blows, self-healing ability, or the amount of chakra. There had been a huge increase. Now he didn't need to rely on other abilities at all. Just relying on the Otsutsuki physique, he could fight with a Kage-level powerhouse like Uchiha Itachi without losing the upper hand. On the other hand, Uchiha Itachi felt much more uncomfortable. He had an inexplicable feeling, as if he had met his destined nemesis. He felt as if he had been seen through by Qianye. No matter what tricks he used, Qianye seemed to always be able to anticipate and prepare in advance. He was unable to use his strength, and it was as uncomfortable as it could be. But he couldn't do anything at all. There was no way, not to mention how aggrieved he was. This couldn't go on. Itachi made a decision. After a short fight, he knew that it would be difficult to defeat Qianye with these, and he had to show some real skills. That was the illusion he was proud of. He didn't believe that Qianye could be better than him at this level of illusion. Uchiha Itachi stood in the distance in an instant, and at the same time, the Mangekyo Sharingan began to operate, emitting a blood-red light. At this moment, the masked man watching the battle and a group of ninjas from the Root Organization and the Umbu couldn't help but shrink their pupils. All this was because of the Mangekyo Sharingan, a rare Mangekyo Sharingan in ancient times. They all knew that Itachi was going to get serious. Qianye was still calm. As for the Mangekyo Sharingan, he has it, but he cannot use it to hide his strength. However, he still used the 3 Magatama Sharingan to deal with it. The 3 Magatama Sharingan is far inferior to the Mangekyo Sharingan, but it is still somewhat useful. The direct competition of the Sharingan began. The 3 Magatama versus the Mangekyo. Logically, there should be no suspense, but it still made people's blood boil. The ninjas from the Root Organization and the Umbu all breathed a sigh of relief. Itachi was serious. It seemed that this battle would be over soon. The masked man looked like he was watching a good show. Although he intended to recruit Qianye into the organization, it did not mean that he would take action. In fact, this was a level he set for Qianye. Only if he passed it successfully would he be qualified to join his organization. If he failed, he was not willing to conflict with Uchiha Itachi for this. Moreover, he also wanted to know how far Uchiha Itachi, a rare genius in the Uchiha clan, had come. The fight between the two had already begun. Although they seemed motionless, everyone knew clearly that the two had actually started a very fierce confrontation. This was an illusion. it was difficult for others to see what was going on. Only those who were truly present could see it. Only when you are in it, you will know the danger. This is especially true when facing the Uchiha clan who possesses the Mangekyo Sharingan. The Uchiha clan's Mangekyo Sharingan has a natural advantage in illusion. Their fights will be very different from those with other ninjas, just like what they are seeing now. In just a short moment, Qianye has already had 3 illusion battles with Uchiha Itachi. Due to the restriction that he cannot show his Mangekyo Sharingan, many of Qianye's abilities cannot be used, but his pupil power is real. It will not increase or decrease depending on whether the Mangekyo Sharingan is revealed or not. This also makes him less passive in the illusion battle with Uchiha Itachi. After all, that is Uchiha Itachi's illusion. Even a Kage-level strong man like him can't be used. Even the great Orochimaru had suffered a great loss under Itachi's illusion, so it must not be underestimated. Although he was in this small prison, in front of Qianye's eyes was an endless sea of fire. It was scorching and hot, and it was so real that it made people feel creepy from the bottom of their hearts. Uchiha Itachi floated and hung in the air, like a god in this world, who could control everything. He just waved his hand lightly, and the endless sea of fire set off huge waves in an instant, roaring and roaring like a terrifying beast, rushing towards Qianye. The reason why illusions are illusions is that all of this is an illusion. It is all fake, but only when you are in it, you will know how terrible illusions are. Obviously, the mind is very clear and knows that all of this is fake, but the body reacts involuntarily, and the feeling affected by that extremely hot and terrifying breath. But Qianye still looked calm, maintaining his usual indifference. He watched the scorching fire dragon rushing towards him, without dodging, or parrying. However, when the fire dragon really approached, it suddenly disappeared, and everything around it returned to its original appearance, and everything returned to calm. Uchiha Itachi frowned slightly. Qianye was much more difficult to deal with than he thought. This difficulty was not because Qianye blocked his attack several times in a row, but because of the way Qianye blocked the attacks. Just standing there, he could see through everything. No matter how realistic the scene was, it could not be hidden from his eyes. Just in terms of the 3 Magatama Sharingan, it was already considered extremely strong. To read the violent novel, go to Faloo Novel Network. At least, before he evolved into the Mangekyo Sharingan, he did not have such an exaggerated ability. Qianye had a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. These illusions are of course very powerful, and they are enough to deal with ordinary opponents, but he is obviously not an ordinary opponent. Even if many of his abilities cannot be displayed now, he is still a Kage-level strongman just relying on this pair of 3 Magatama Sharingan and the physique of the Otsutsuki. It is a long way to defeat a Kage-level strongman with this level of illusion. Uchiha Itachi snorted coldly, somewhat annoyed by Qianye's attitude. All this was just a test, and he hadn't used his real trick yet, Tsukuyomi. Itachi Uchiha's eyes suddenly flashed with a strange, breathtaking red light. His unique Mangekyo Sharingan ninjutsu, Tsukuyomi, was performed in an instant. This ninjutsu is known as the most powerful mental attack. Once it hits the student's life or death, it will be completely under his control, and the victory of this battle can be decided immediately. However, the price to pay for this ninjutsu is also very huge. First of all, the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan is weakened, and then the consumption of his own chakra. Either of these 2 aspects will make him fall into a state of panic after releasing it. In weakness, if it fails to be released successfully, or is forcibly cracked by the opponent, it will backfire, and the consequences are quite serious. It must not be performed lightly without scruples. However, facing Qianye, Itachi has absolute confidence. This is not too arrogant, or contemptuous, but he knows too well the difference between the 3 Magatama Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan. This gap is to the point where it can hardly be made up by anything else. Next to them, the Root organization, the Dark Ninjas, and the masked men realized what kind of ninjutsu Uchiha Itachi released, and their eyes flashed. Within this distance between the 2, there is absolutely no reason for Qianye not to be hit by Tsukuyomi, and once he is hit, it will directly declare the end of this battle. It seems that in the end, Uchiha Itachi is still the better one. The masked man felt disappointed, but also felt that something was not right. If Qianye was so easy to deal with, how could he be stabbed? Why is Qianye's performance tonight different from what he knew? Or is there still a chance of turning this battle? With inner doubts, he stared closely at the two people in the prison. As Tsukuyomi was performed, Qianye entered Tsukuyomi. World, the blood-red moon, the blood-red earth, everything is red. Qianye was tied tightly to the cross, unable to move, but his expression was still calm, without any disturbance. Uchiha Itachi stood in front of Qianye with a samurai sword in his hand, with a hint of excitement on his face. He admitted that Qianye was indeed a formidable opponent, whether it was physical skills, ninjutsu, or the understanding of illusion. He was no worse than him. However, he possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan and his exclusive eye technique Tsukuyomi, which allowed him to win this battle. Itachi said lightly, "You are careless. The three Magatama Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan are not on the same level at all. Only those who have possessed it know how powerful it is. You can rest in peace if you die under my Tsukuyomi," he said as he walked towards Qianye step by step. And as he got closer and closer to Qianye, the number of Uchiha Itachi was also increasing. At first, there was only one person, and slowly it became 5, 10, and even more. At a glance, it was densely packed, everywhere, and it was hard to see clearly. Together, they walked towards Qianye step by step, until they came in front of him, raised the samurai swords in their hands at the same time, and then stabbed down suddenly. In reality, the red light of Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan suddenly lit up, and then slowly dimmed, and then 2 blood tears meandered down his cheeks. He wiped away the blood and tears, rubbed his eyes, and felt dizzy and extremely weak. All over, this was the sequelae of performing Tsukuyomi, but for some reason, the weakness brought to him this time was more serious than usual. But fortunately, it was all over. But at this moment, Uchiha Itachi's figure suddenly paused. Chapter 60. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Danzo's shock. No. Uchiha Itachi suddenly became alert, because he discovered something. Uchiha Qianye, who was supposed to be in front of him, disappeared, gone. What does this mean? After being hit by his Tsukuyomi technique, there is no possibility for him to move. He is 100% sure. In other words, his Tsukuyomi did not actually make Qianye fall for it. Thinking of this, Itachi's expression unconsciously became solemn. At this moment, behind Uchiha Itachi, a figure quietly appeared without knowing when, holding a kunai against his back. It was Qianye. Uchiha Itachi's body paused, and an incredible expression appeared on his face. You lost. Qianye said calmly. The ninjas from the Root organization and the Umbu who were watching the battle were all stunned. What happened? Qianye, who seemed to have been hit by Uchiha Itachi's Tsukuyomi just now, suddenly disappeared. Then, the originally disappeared Qianye appeared behind Uchiha Itachi. The situation of the battle turned around in an instant. However, they did not know why it turned around and what happened in the process. Only the single eye of the masked man was a bit solemn. Others could not see it, but it did not mean that he could not see it. After all, he was a Kage-level strongman with the Mangekyo Sharingan. It would be really strange if he could not see this just now. The one who had been fighting against Uchiha Itachi was actually Uchiha Qiye's clone. As everyone knows, the shadow clone strength is only a part of the original body, and it cannot be harmed. Once it is harmed, it will disappear immediately. This is also the reason why Uchiha Qiye disappeared, because it was Uchiha Qiye's clone. The original body was hiding in the dark, just waiting for the moment when Uchiha Itachi let down his guard, and then he would decisively take action to end the battle. What a terrible strength, what a terrible calculation. Even he was kept in the dark about all this, and he only realized it when Qiye's real body appeared. What made him even more incredible was that, just a clone, but he actually deceived Uchiha Itachi and his Mangekyo Sharingan. This was originally unimaginable, but it really happened before his eyes, forcing him to believe it. This made him feel alert in his heart, although he was injured by Qinye's hands due to his carelessness last time, but he has always been very confident, with his divine power. There must be very few people in this world who can defeat him. Qinye's strength is good. But he is obviously not one of these few people, and now, he wonders if he is wrong. His organization is in need of people, and it is true that he needs help, but he is someone who can be used by him, not someone he can't control at all. What's the point of recruiting him? If you want to control him, you need absolute strength to suppress him. Now he doesn't have that much confidence that he can suppress Qianye, although he still has a trump card in his hand, a trump card that can sweep away everything. In front of that trump card, everything will be eclipsed and there will be no resistance. However, that kind of trump card is not to be used casually. If recruiting him back is a trouble, he would rather not have it. In prison, Uchiha Itachi did not surrender. After being restrained, but launched a ninjutsu at the first time, substitution technique. As expected of Uchiha Itachi, a super genius ninja rarely seen in Konoha for 100 years. His adaptability on the battlefield, his thought switching, and the speed of performing ninjutsu and seals have all reached a very high level. Qianye had seen some Kage-level masters take action in the simulation, but the only ones who could compare with Uchiha Itachi in this regard were the first and second generation Hokage who were reincarnated by the impure world reincarnation. As for the others, Danzo and the great Orochi king were a little worse. Seeing this, Qianye stabbed forward without any hesitation. The cold kunai carried a sharp cold light in the dark prison. At such a close distance, there would definitely be no situation where it would miss. What's more, Qianye has the physique of an Otsutsuki, and relying solely on physical skills is enough to rank among the Kage-level masters. It is not easy to escape from his hands, but the speed at which Uchiha Itachi performed ninjutsu, he was still a little surprised, because it was too fast. At such a close distance, he stabbed straight out, in less than 0.1 seconds, almost instantaneous. However, at the moment he stabbed out, he did not feel the blocking feeling of the kunai piercing the flesh, and Uchiha Itachi's body had begun to gradually become ethereal, turning into a group of black, strange crows, and scattered. Qianye immediately increased the speed of stabbing. Bang! A round wooden barrel fell to the ground. There was a kunai stuck on it. On the kunai, there were obvious bloodstains, winding down along the wood, Uchiha Itachi's blood. Not far away, the crows that had just scattered gathered again, and Uchiha Itachi also showed his whereabouts among them. His face was pale, and 2 lines of blood and tears made his handsome face look a little hideous. He covered his back with one hand and faced Qianye. Carefully on guard. Just now, he took advantage of Qianye's upper hand and the moment when he had already won and unexpectedly performed the substitution technique. Although he managed to escape successfully in the end, he was also injured. In addition to the consumption of performing Tsukimi before, he no longer has the strength to fight, so he immediately performed the instant body technique and ran away. Qianye did not stop him. Now is not suitable for too much conflict. He also needs a quiet environment to conduct the last simulation. The members of the Umbu and Root organization next to him were shocked. Indeed, Uchiha Itachi is very strong. It can be clearly seen from the fight just now. If they were to face Uchiha Itachi, they would not have any chance of winning at all, and they would most likely be killed instantly. To read the exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. But even such a genius ninja was also defeated by Uchiha Qianye. Although they did not fully understand the process of the battle. However, the result was very obvious and clear at a glance. Uchiha Itachi was defeated. And what kind of existence is Uchiha Qianye who defeated Uchiha Itachi? The solemnity in the masked man's eyes became deeper. Every time he met Uchiha Qianye, he seemed to bring him something different. The super strong physical skills when he first defeated Kuroki Raiga. When they first met, he even took advantage of his carelessness to break his divine power and defeated him, and this time, he defeated Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Qianye did not use all physical skills. His judgment of illusion, ninjutsu, combat experience, and timing have reached a very exaggerated level. Such a person, if used well, will definitely become a great help in his future, but the question is, can he control such an Uchiha Qianye? A question mark appeared in his heart. What? Uchiha Itachi was defeated. Danzo could not hide his inner shock in his voice. That was Uchiha Itachi. He was a rare genius ninja in the Uchiha clan and even in the entire Konoha. He entered school at the age of 6 and graduated from the ninja school in just 1 year. He became a chunin at the age of 10. He joined the Umbu at the age of 11. He became the captain of the Umbu at the age of 13. He awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan at a young age. To put it bluntly, Uchiha Itachi has already reached a point that even Danzo cannot see through, but he still lost. How is this possible? On the other side, the usually calm third generation couldn't help but stare at the news when he heard it, thinking about it. This incident also had a great impact on his heart. Did Itachi use his full strength? Did Itachi half narrow his eyes with a hint of coldness? This was a possibility he subconsciously thought of. Uchiha Itachi let his guard down, otherwise, how could he lose? He was Konoha's genius ninja, Uchiha Itachi, who had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. How could he lose to Uchiha Chiba, who had only awakened the 3 Magatama Sharingan? This was simply impossible. In front of Danzo, several ninjas from the Root organization and Umbu who had been watching the battle looked at each other, and they were all a little hesitant in their hearts. A battle of that level was not something they could understand. They couldn't tell whether he let his guard down or not. After a slight hesitation, one of the ninjas said, "Sir Danzo, in my opinion, Uchiha Itachi doesn't look like he didn't use his full strength. We saw with our own eyes that Uchiha Qianye almost killed Uchiha Itachi." The ninjas beside him nodded in agreement. Even when they think of the danger at that moment, they can't help but feel a little cold in their hearts. If this is all acting, then the acting is too superb. Uchiha Itachi is injured? Danzo asked. Yes. The ninja replied, Uchiha Qianye stabbed him in the back with a kunai, plus he was exhausted from using the Mangekyo Sharingan before, so I think he was seriously injured. Oh. Danzo nodded. The 3rd generation looked thoughtful. No wonder he didn't come back to report. It turned out that he was injured. Unlike Danzo, he had 100% trust in Uchiha Itachi. He believed that Itachi would do his best to serve him, and he also believed that Itachi would never let him go. Since he lost, it was really a loss. There was absolutely no way it could be fake. He was considering another thing now. How to deal with Uchiha Qianye? Should he watch him join the Masked Man's organization, or find another opportunity to deal with him together? Neither of these two is a good choice, after going through so much. Things like this. Uchiha Qianye no longer has any feelings for Konoha, and it would be a blessing if he doesn't treat it as an enemy. Will he keep a secret for Konoha? Letting such a person who is an enemy of Konoha stay outside is a huge hidden danger for Konoha. Killing him directly is a permanent solution. However, the person who can defeat Uchiha Itachi is not someone they can kill just because they want to. What a huge price to pay. Danzo on the side was also silent. He was also thinking about this problem. Unexpectedly, when the night of the Uchiha clan extermination was approaching, there would be such a tricky trouble. It's a bit difficult.